in from the waiting room.
Good evening. Good evening.
Lucky you are live.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Good evening. I see people filing in. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All righty. Here we go. Okay, I've got 7 o'clock, so 7 p.m. for the official record. I'm going to call us to order. For quorum, I've got myself, Brian Cutler, John. We've got makes 3. I've got Samantha. I've got Elena. I've got Emily. That's 6. And Camelia. Well, we've got 7. I believe. If you could confirm that for me, but we definitely have quorum, but I think it's a 7-person body at this point.
That's correct, Mike B.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So I don't have any other opening remarks at this juncture. Obviously, I'm filling in for Mr. Michael Wood this evening, taking the chair in this particular instance. I'm going to make a motion at this point for approval of this evening's agenda. Second.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Believe that was unanimous. All right. At this point, Cam, do I have any meeting minutes to act on this evening?
Yes, you do. You have let me pull this up for you.
I appreciate it, sir.
Sure. You have August 20th, August 27th, September 3rd, September 10th.
All right. I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as listed by Cam there, those 4 dates. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I believe that was also unanimous. Beautiful. All right. So that takes care of those. I do not have in my notes anyone registered to provide any member commentary at this juncture. I'll pause here for a second and ask staff if I am mistaken or if there's anyone here.
If anyone is here that would like to speak during member comments, if you are an interested party, not an affected party on an application for this evening, now is your opportunity to address the DRB. You can raise your hand. I'm not seeing any hands, so you are good to go.
All right. Appreciate it. And thank you again for the assist, Cam, as always. At this point, we will move over to the first item on this evening's agenda, which is item F, which is the application for 2058 Lake Audubon Court. So this is, if I am reading my notes correctly, we've got an appeal. And this is something this board has seen previously. So June, I believe, is the first individual here. And let's see here.
They are here, but I believe June had requested that Joy communicate. So
Okay.
I'm going to unmute both Joy and June.
Okay.
And they can confirm. June, we're asking you to unmute. Are you?
Yep.
Yes, this is June Talinda. I'm here. I had emailed LaShonda Graham on September 10th. My son, Matt Talinda, will speak for me at this meeting, and she said she'd make a note of that.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And is he here? And
Yes. Yep. I'm sitting here next to.
Oh, beautiful.
Yep.
I was looking for you as a separate individual. So, all right, fair enough. So the way this works, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. You've got 3 minutes, and our folks may pop in with some questions and whatnot. But without any further ado, take it away.
Okay.
Mike B, before he
Yes,
starts,
yes,
I just want to confirm there is no time limit on appeals.
Oh, I'm very sorry there, sir. I apologize. Thank you, Cam.
Yep.
This is a slightly different process since y'all were. I got you. So take the floor. Go for broke, sir.
Okay. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction and for all of your time tonight. I think the one piece coming into this with the appeal is we sort of felt that the original affected party statement wasn't fully addressed. I know Joy will be speaking to this to some effect about the weight and the structural and sort of engineering impacts to our unit, which is neighboring with 2058, in addition to just potential impacts to the entire row. But the biggest thing is the proposed additions impact the surroundings of my mom's property and other properties in the cluster, especially with the larger additions on the rear, with the sunroom and the deck. The privacy, property value, and lake views are all things that would be immensely impacted by these proposed changes. And I believe in some of the past meetings, they were not fully approved by the HOA. So some of the design changes. So we're just kind of looking for some guidance there and how and why some of these things would have been approved, knowing that there's these larger impacts to the property value and privacy. And then my second thing here is my mom's quality of life will be affected. We unfortunately got some news that she's going to be starting treatment for a serious health concern. So at a minimum, if the project does get approved in its current state, we're asking out of compassion if there could be a 1-year hold or pause put on the project while she goes through treatment. And that's all I have at this time, but I'll be on the remainder of the call and happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your time. And thank you for spelling it all out for us. I'm going to move over to the next individual, which I believe was Joy, and I didn't see Joy.
Joy is here, but might be another procedural item.
Yes,
There's two appeals before the DRB this evening. So generally, the DRB will review one appeal, determine if there was a misapplied guideline or new information, which in essence should resolve any issues related to reviewing future or additional appeals if you accept the appeal based on misapplied guideline or new information. So do you want
from
to
a
take
procedural standpoint? Yeah, Cam. So from that standpoint, you'd like us to act on the appeal from June 1st and then?
Correct.
All right. Fair enough. I was, okay, fair enough. So if that's the case, let's pause here for a hot minute and we'll go around the room to my colleagues and start some manner of conversation here. Brian, just because you're drawing the first straw here as the first person on my bar of faces, do you have any questions for the individual that we just heard from?
No questions.
All right. Pan across to John. John, any questions?
No questions.
All right. Let's go to Samantha next. Oops, Samantha's muted, but she's making a face that I'm saying no questions, correct?
That's correct.
There we go. Now she's good. I'll go to Elena. You're back. You're all good?
I am, thank you. No questions.
No questions from Elena. Okay. And Camelia, I've got you next.
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Emily, I think you are last in my line.
No questions for the applicant. Thank you.
Okay. And just for the record, this would be the appellant, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So that's everybody I've got. Yeah. So at this juncture, I mean, no questions for the individuals. Anybody at a place here? I mean, the two pieces as Cam was laying them out for us. So misapplied guideline or new information brought. Yeah. Anybody got some feelings or some thoughts in this regard as to whether or not we'd like to pick up the appeal? Elena? Yeah.
So I don't see anything in the affected party statement or the appeal statement or the additional information that we've received that shows a misapplication of the guidelines. The new information, however, is unfortunate, and we feel compassion for health conditions. However, that's not a design area and it's not within our purview. So when we say new information, we mean about a guideline or something with the construction.
Thank you, Elena. I appreciate it. Anybody on the board have any commentary to that point or anything else they wanted to add? Otherwise, I'd go ahead, Brian.
Oh, no, nothing for me.
Okay. Just saw you unmute there and I thought you were going. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add at this point. So, I mean, I'd be looking to the board here if anybody wanted to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the appeal is denied because it does not meet the requirements for appeal, namely showing that there was a misapplied guideline or cluster standard and there was no new design information.
Okay, I've got a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. I'm going to say Brian made the second as just the first person I heard. So that's a motion. I've got a second. Any further discussion from the board members? All right, then I'll take the vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 All right, so that's for John. I didn't hear you. And Samantha. I didn't.
Aye.
Okay. And
Third
Samantha?
time's the charm.
Aye.
Okay. And then any against? And Mike B abstains. All right. So I believe that appeal is denied. Cam, you had the official count.
Yes, 701.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. I will move over to the next appeal, which Cam, thank you again for your guidance as always. So Joy, I believe you were here and ready to go. So I'll turn the floor over to you, ma'am.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Appreciate your time. As noted in my appeal, there are no cluster standards for a rear-facing single-story sunroom or a front-facing mudroom. And I've been in the Shores since 2007, have served on and off the board for approximately 10 years. And during this period and to date, it's been my understanding of design review and covenants administration that the DRB is not supposed to be in the role of inadvertently creating clustered standards or inadvertently approving one-off projects that result in significant architectural changes that impact the character of the entire community. So from that perspective, the August 20th DRB decision approving most of the items in the application is premature. And moreover, property owners and residents of the Shores have not been told that 2058's application includes converting the front porch to an enclosed mudroom. There's been no discussion of the sunroom off the deck, or that the bulk of the application was approved. Very few people know this within the community. So I think it's important to note that what the board has done thus far is relevant, and documents that I'm going to reference were given to the community on last Friday, the 13th in the evening. So you don't have those documents because it was after the closing date. Cam, however, does have those documents that I'm referencing, and I've sent them to him simply because transparency is very important. And on July 9th, the board held a meeting to discuss this application. And we, meeting 2054, my husband and I were unable to attend that meeting. So we sent a lengthy email to the board outlining why we were concerned about this application. And I will spare you giving you the details, other than stating that moving forward with a project like this carries forth in potentially creating a mishmash of designs, which isn't the point of being in an HOA community. And the reply that we received from the board on July 11th, and I state, the board has no position on the application at this point. Given the short notice, we only introduced the topic at Tuesday's meeting to make board members aware that future discussions would be needed. We decided that a special board meeting would be helpful. Minutes from that July 9th meeting state the board is not prepared to discuss details, as board members have just received the number 2058 DRB home improvement application. The next board meeting will be a special meeting just to discuss requests for changes to cluster design standards. And this is what's critical: cluster design standards. So for that August 13th meeting, which I was out of town, did not attend, the meeting announcement to the community states: special board meeting purpose, review, discussion, and possible updating of the Shores Cluster Associating Standards. Background: a homeowner has submitted a DRB application for home improvement. The homeowner, an RA, identified elements of the plan that are either not addressed, example, house numbers, or appear to be an exception. Examples: elevated deck measurements, exterior lights to cluster standards. RA has asked the board to provide feedback as to the willingness in the future to update cluster standards to incorporate the exceptions. Reminder: a special meeting to discuss is limited. There will be an open discussion opportunity at the next regular board meeting, date and time to be decided. That meeting is supposed to be held this evening. It was bumped because of this meeting. So it's been rescheduled for October 1st. The agenda for October 1st, new business, and I quote, changes to cluster standards, patio doors, revised exterior, light standards, spiral stair colors, deck and railing color materials. We still have no mention from our board about a single-story back deck sunroom, no mudroom standards, nothing. So I am concerned that, again, DRB is inadvertently making very significant changes to a property, and no one in our community has had a discussion about what these cluster standards are and what they could look like for the community as a whole. I have a beautiful front porch that, yeah, it would look awesome, in my view, to have this mudroom. But in reality, if I convert my front porch, we have a radically different neighborhood in combination of shutting off other front porches. We have a breezy lake feel design. That is why it's called the Shores. So when you start shifting this openness and enclosing it, you are radically shifting the effect of the community. And that is not something that the DRB, to my understanding, should be doing. And since the application, most portions were passed on August 20th, I have heard from numerous other residents, because they know I was involved in the original August 20 meeting and that I was making an appeal. So people have reached out to me via email because they want their voice to be heard, because they're angry that they were never told about this project. And one of those emails came from 2076. That's an adjacent property owner. 2076 attended the July 9th and the August 13th meeting. It's my understanding that he asked to see the application. It was denied. He has since received it from another board member, from a property owner, not a board member. And the email that he sent to me, and I quote, "Some of the requested changes are so massive and out of character with the community that if approved, it seems to me there's really no need to have a board or directors or any community standards. You've essentially established an anything goes precedent." From Unit 2050, we have correspondence with RA. If changes requested by a homeowner will affect the appearance and homogeneity of this small cluster, it may also affect the desirability of potential buyers and the potential value of our homes. My request to the board and board president was simply make all homeowners aware of their intention to approve the design structure of the home, which will affect other homes in the cluster. 2062, who, like 2056, is adjacent to a townhome, emailed me as well. And 2062, and I quote, "We have only recently been apprised of the application and the DRB's findings for a sunroom and mudroom. Since we were not aware, we missed the opportunity to file as an affected party or file an appeal. I called the president to inquire about the board's position and stated that we were opposed to this plan. It would set a dangerous precedent. The board should have notified the cluster so all of us could weigh in on the matter. So I respectfully ask that the DRB not get ahead of the work that has yet to be done by the board in communication with the community. We are self-managed, our board all volunteers. We're 22 units. So 6 people contacting me is essentially 30% of property owners who are really concerned about this. And one end unit owner said to me, "You know, for me, this is great. I win. But, you know, I really think this is a community discussion. We are just a small group, and we deserve to be informed about decisions that potentially affect what we bought in a way that many people may not agree with. Some might, many might, but that's a discussion that should happen within the shores, not after the fact when the DRB has already made it a standard." Thank you.
Thank you. So let me pause here for a second. That is the second of the 2 appeals I have on my notes, Cam, just confirming. I know we had a representative of the cluster board who had registered as an affected party on the application itself. Had they chosen to file an appeal themselves? It was just these 2, correct?
Yes, you just have these 2. Correct.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go around here, have a little bit of discussion, et cetera. Couple of points just to point out. Obviously, there's some conversations here with regard to the neighborhood, how the neighborhood is conducting its business, how the neighborhood and the board, and I say the board meaning the cluster board, are going through their motions. The application, obviously, that was filed on behalf of 2058. I mean, I'm seeing here that a cluster board officer did acknowledge the application and sign it. Just again, for conversation's sake amongst us board members, I don't know what that individual's role was. I'm assuming, yeah, so it would have been the president or vice president role, just for our records here. So again, let me go to, well, John, you're first in my queue here. Do you have any questions for the appellant at this point?
No.
Okay. How about you, Brian?
I guess my only question is where the cluster is in writing a cluster standard. I mean, is this one of those things where like the standard is written and just needs to be reviewed at the October meeting, or is it hasn't been started yet in the process?
Is that a question for staff?
Oh no, that was a question for I guess the appellant Joy.
Yeah.
Sure. We'll ask her to unmute.
Thank you. So At the August 13th meeting, and I have the notes, the discussion notes from there, what they addressed was front door color, a French door, and these are standards we currently have in place, and clarification of those standards or adding them. So house numbers, we don't have standards. It was decided, leave it alone for the time being. There was a question on siding materials. There was a question on siding and trim colors, deck colors, railings for elevated deck, handrail at the front porch, windows fixed, skylight, solar tube, exterior lights, gutter color, elevated deck, and lakeside stair design. Those are the only elements that the board has brought to a meeting thus far. No discussion on sunroom, no discussion on a mudroom.
I was going to say, that answer your question there, Brian?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joy.
And I would just like to reiterate, the next meeting, October 1st, is supposed to be an open discussion, a continuation of this particular cluster process. So I don't know what's going to be added, but again, those designs, the design standards do not exist.
Well, the ones you were just listing off, the ones that were, and they
I'm
were discussed.
referencing
Okay.
the sunroom and the mudroom, that nothing has been discussed or outlined in any regard to cluster standards that could exist.
Understood. Thank you. I'll go to Elena. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to comment
Sure.
on some of the comments that were made. Where no cluster standard exists, the DRB uses general guidelines and their design expertise and best judgment in making decisions. Because there would no guidelines exist there, you cannot misapply a guideline. If it's a cluster standard, excuse me, cannot misapply a cluster standard if there is none. There are some for some of the portions of the design, but because you can misapply a guideline in the overall massing, et cetera, of the design if there is none. Again, the new information, I'll reiterate what I said last time in that, serious health issues joining homeowners, we're all sympathetic to that, but that's not in our purview. That's something that one would have to prevail upon the individual who is making the renovations and ask for their willingness to delay things, and then they would have to get a continuation on their approval. I don't think that I have ever seen or could condone delaying a decision so that's a cluster could apply de facto after the fact. Excuse me, I didn't mean de facto. Apply after the fact guidelines written later. And what I heard in those emails was a lot of concern about how the cluster was doing internal business. So I just, want to raise that discussion after we go through the questions.
Thank you, Elena. Next up, let's see here. Camelia, you are next. Any questions, comments?
Questions or comments? Thank you.
Absolutely. Next, Emily, you are next on my list.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I echo. I don't necessarily have a question for the applicant, more a question for staff, because it's my understanding, much to Elena's point, that when there is no cluster guideline for these matters, let's say either this project was done, well before there was a cluster, or it was, back in the day, when a cluster decides to update their design standards, we don't go back and say, hey, every house that had something installed in it beforehand has to now meet cluster standards that have been updated in more recent years. They're typically grandfathered in. So, but anything in the future would have to meet those standards. So to me, this is something where if we take the cluster standards out of it, we would be looking at this like any other application, in which case I don't see any, guidelines that were supplied or any new information. And I even, with the sunroom, I heard the idea that, oh, they're getting rid of the front porch and it's not going to feel as open and airy. They are still maintaining some aspect of an open front porch space, which I think is going to, not be as open, but I see that there is an intent to still keep the spaces open, and it's not the addition, the sunroom isn't protruding past, the mass of the existing house. So in general, I guess my question is, if we approve this, staff, could it be used as a precedent for other applicants to make an argument why their application should be approved, even if it doesn't meet cluster standards? Or will this just be seen as its own thing that was grandfathered in before the cluster did their standards updates?
Unfortunately, that's not a black and white answer, as I'm sure you could imagine. Anything that the DRB approves can set a precedent. And whether or not the DRB approves something and suggests the cluster use the approval as a model for establishing a cluster standard or not may be a good suggestion if that was the desire of the DRB. But I think ultimately anything that you approve could be used by a future member as this was approved, unless there's an established cluster standard. A cluster standard that is established will help mold what is the restrictions on those types of elements or modifications.
Thank you, Cam. That's all I have, Mike. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I think last but not least on my list, Samantha, any commentary or questions?
No questions. Thank you.
No questions. All right. At this juncture, let me go around here. I mean, obviously, Elena, thank you for your commentary and everybody who asked some questions and whatnot. Obviously, we've all seen the application previously, so this has been before us. I think we're all familiar with what's going on here. Yeah. Does anybody, I'd look to the board. Does anybody want to make a motion? I would entertain one if someone had one.
I'll make a motion to deny the appeal based on the fact that no cluster standards or design guidelines were misapplied. And the new information does not pertain to the design.
Okay.
And it's-
We've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Emily seconds. All right, so that's a motion. That's a second. Any further discussion from the board? All right, then I'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Any against? Mike B abstains. Cam, I believe that's the same count.
Yes, it is. And just one point for clarification, the property 2058 Lake Audubon Court still does not have final approval for the deck. So that is still subject to the DRB's consideration for future applications since it was deferred.
And that was a genuine or a general commentary, correct? So Cam, that item is not before us this evening. Just for
That is
my
correct.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, Cam, there was a chat that went up. Are any of us, the appellant questioned whether any of us had to abstain from the vote? Because we were at the previous meeting.
No,
I
this was
abstained. Excuse me, I abstained. Mike B abstained. I am.
Yeah, I know, but I think the original decision was that a full board, therefore we all have to be able to vote. And
That's
I just wanted to clarify that for the appellant because they put that up in the chat.
That is correct. All DRB members were eligible to vote since it was a full DRB decision.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time this evening. That, I believe, concludes this matter. unless I have missed something on this item, Cam. But otherwise, I will move over to the second item on tonight's agenda, which is item H, 1309 North Village Road.
I believe we have Mr. and Mrs. Patel. We're going to ask you to unmute as we load up your application. And if there's anyone else that you would like to speak to your application that's on this evening, please let us know who they are.
Nope, just me tonight.
Okay, awesome. You are.
Hello and welcome. Yeah, and Cam, not to talk right over you, but obviously take it away. Walk us through what you have going here. We'll pepper you with some questions and see where we go.
Yeah. I'll try to make it quick for everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Sunny Patel, and I'm the new owner of the Primrose School of Reston. We are new to Reston, and we changed our exterior lights. First off, just want to say apologies for not putting in an application. Without having experience in Reston, we kind of just thought of this as changing any other light bulb in the building. But we understand the importance of going through this application process, so happy to do that. So when we bought the building, we were having some safety issues. These lights, my guess is these lights were there since the building was built, well over 20 years ago. And there was visibility issues, which caused safety concerns. So we have teachers who open the building early hours in the morning, sometimes later hours in the evening, making it unsafe when they're walking in and out of their car. We've also had issues where when the building is closed over the weekend, we will come back Monday to find that there were people kind of hanging out there. There was vandalism to the building. We'd find, beer bottles, cigarette butts, again, not great for the children. We had pest animal issues over the weekend when, there was nobody there as well. And most recently, we had an issue where during pickup, and, this is probably between 5 and 6 o'clock, but in the winter, when it gets darker earlier, we had a child, because of the visibility issues, enter another family's vehicle, thinking it was his own car. He kind of got away from his mom and jumped in somebody else's vehicle. That was it for us. That's a huge safety concern. So we upgraded these lights. We did not change the poles, just the lights, which does involve the fixture. Yep, you'll see that the old fixture was a box light. So these new lights are energy efficient. They're LED. They light up. They were actually recommended to us by the distributor for an early education center located in an area like this, surrounded by trees, kind of tucked away. So we took their recommendation. I'm proud to say that this solved all of those issues that I spoke of. We don't see any activity over the weekends. There was one other situation I forgot to mention was, we had trouble clearing snow and ice entirely from the parking lot, which was also a concern in the morning when families are coming in. But anyway, all those problems are gone. We offer a premium service as a Primrose School of Reston, and we hope that strengthens the Reston community. So we hope you'll approve these lights. I do understand there was a complaint from a neighbor that they were getting the lights were coming into their window overnight. I did not have the contact information from the person or people who complained, but if that is an issue, that's a pretty easy fix. I mean, I'm willing to work with them, whether it's helping out with blackout shades or putting something. You can put a guard on these lights where it can block one side of it. But we hope that you'll approve this and let our parking lot stay lit. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I do have an affected party who registered for this evening. And I think I saw that individual when I was scrolling earlier.
Yes, we're asking Mr. Saffron to unmute.
Wonderful.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
There we go. Welcome, sir.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I'm gonna deliver the spiel that I was starting to deliver earlier, and then Cam corrected me. So you've got 3 minutes to address the board and spell out what you've got going here, and we might interject with some questions, but take it away, sir.
Sure, thank you. My name's Robert Safran. I'm at 11402 Gate Hill Place. Can you put up the zoning map I sent in? Can you kind of blow that up?
There you go.
Okay. So I'll give you an orient people to the neighborhood. So at the upper left corner, you see Reston Parkway, and then diagonally through that, the center, you'll see Wheelie Avenue. So if you're traveling west on Wheelie towards Reston Parkway, make a left on North Village Road. And you'll see on the left side, you'll see a building labeled 14. That's the daycare center. And then you go up to those dotted lines and you make a left, and that's the driveway, those two parallel dotted lines. Drive down there, you make a left, and then you're in the parking lot. And within that parking lot, you'll see a small oval. And I don't know if you can see this, but there's two rectangle boxes there.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Within those boxes, rectangles, it's a one pole each. So there's two poles. And I went out there the other night and I counted on each pole, there are 4 fixtures. One, as you're facing it, one in front, one on the left, one on the right, one behind it. Same with the second one. And then, so that's 8 LED fixtures right there. And right behind it, you'll see a large white area. You'll see the number 1309, the address of the property. That white area is a tree saved area that was carved out by the original DRB, I believe, in 1999 or 2000. This was pre-construction. So that's a tree saved area. And there's another LED light right in front of that. So what I'm experiencing when I look at that, there's a lot of glare coming out. I mean, it's a very, I call it small parking lot with a lot of LED lighting. And there's glare coming out of that. It's going onto the street. As you exit or enter the neighborhood, you're hit by these glaring lights. And the reason I mentioned tree saved area is these LED lights are in fact turning for the wildlife that lives on this property, they're nighttime into daytime. These are hot blue lights that are just changing their nighttime into light. And one of the reasons for this tree saved area was for the wildlife and I would say, yeah, it's just actually 2. That's one, but that's one that's tree saved area is being impacted the most. And let's say I got 30 seconds left. Let me mention 2 standards that it's currently violating. The number and location. I'm reading from the commercial property, public property, lighting site chapter, page 101. Page 104, I'm sorry, paragraph 3. The number and location of fixtures and their design wattage and light source should be selected to minimize glare both within the site and onto neighboring properties. And on page 4, the last paragraph, it says any new replacement lighting sources should be consistent in style, color, and wattage with existing lighting sources. And I was there when this was first litigated in front of the original DRB in 2000, I believe, and they rejected the original application because they didn't think they asked for natural lighting and lighting that was appropriate for the neighborhood. The applicant came back a week later.
Sorry, sir.
And that's what we,
that's
okay. All right.
Thank you, sir. And
okay, sure.
We're with you, and I appreciate you indicating and pointing out to where the lighting standard that you were reading from. We're with you, so I understand where you were coming from there. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Let's see here. So that was the only affected party on this one, if I'm not mistaken. Just making sure.
It is, but Reston Association does have a comment.
I would be happy to hear it, Cam.
So Cam Adams on behalf of Reston Association Board of Directors, I did want to just confirm that though the application has some examples of the light fixtures, as I think the other affected party mentioned, there are 2 fixtures that have 4 light heads on the poles. So you may not see that in the application, but there are poles that have 4 fixtures on top of them.
Are they dissimilar from one another, Cam? We have multiple pole types, if you will?
Let's call them 4 leaves.
Got it. Ooh, that's a zoomed in one. Yeah, so that's the single, correct? And then you have a quad.
Correct.
Anything else for you, Cam?
No, sir, that's it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let me go around and see if anybody has any questions for the applicant. Let's start with John. Anything you've got, sir?
Our basic guidelines for exterior lights is 3000 K on the light degree of warmth of the light. And I looked at the technical information on these fixtures and they all comply with that particular requirement. So, you know, from that standpoint, I think they're fine.
In the application packet, and I'm not trying to split hairs here, I thought I saw that these were 5,000.
That is an option, but if you go to the specific specs for the individual light fixtures, it is 3000 K.
Beautiful. So okay, great. That was going to be one of my questions, so I'm glad we crossed that bridge. Awesome. Thank you. Anything else, John?
Nope.
Beautiful. How about you, Brian?
Okay, couple questions. We're only talking 3 light poles total, correct? I think, could you unmute Mr. Patel, please?
I'm sorry. They're actually 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 poles. So this single pole has
Steph,
another.
if you go to slide 24, it'll kind of, and you got to zoom in on the sketch that's here, but I think that'll illustrate to Brian what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Yeah, way up in that, the small sketch. So if you go up to the small one go up a bit. There it is. So in there, keep zooming in a little bit more. There you go. You see the indications here? Is that the correct tally? So that's the 5 we're talking about?
Correct.
Okay, beautiful.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, because no, I did miss that. And so, you know, I'm not a lighting expert by any means, but I assume, especially when we look at slide 26, this is a photometric plan that I'm assuming your lighting distributor prepared for you that listed the light values.
The manufacturer, correct.
Okay, and then these are within I don't know, general guidelines for the lighting that's required for this setting.
That was what was recommended to us, correct?
Okay. That's what I'm just trying to. That was it, Mike. I'm trying to understand. Yeah, you know.
Absolutely.
Where the 4-headed light fixture came from in that quantity. So just trying to understand that. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Let me go to Camilio. What say you?
No questions. Thank you.
Yep. Samantha, anything for you?
I do have a couple comments. So, sensing as Brian pointed out, the foot candle study, I see they are fairly high number at the center of the parking lot. That's one thing. The other thing is, my understanding, I know this is an older fixture. You just put in the new LED light, and so chances the original fixture is not cut off type. My understanding is the zoning on the exterior light does require the commercial property when abutting the residential property, the foot candle reading at the property line needed to be 0, and the fixture type need to have cut off option on that. So if we can see that improvement happen, I think the problem should just go away. The glare problem should just go away.
I think that's a good point. Just looking at these things, it doesn't look like there's a lot of down shielding, right? So, okay, awesome. Anything else you wanted to add?
I'm all good. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Let me go over to Emily.
No questions from me, Mike. I echo a lot of what Samantha has said in this, but nothing else to add.
Fair enough. Thank you. And last but not least, Elena.
Thank you. I'm looking at I'm looking at slide 26. Yeah, I see 0.04 at the end of the driveway and 0.05 at the end of the driveway, which I assume at the street end of the driveway, which I assume is the property line. I think with trees in there, it's hard to get the property line reading it realistically, because it's going to change between winter and summer. So I guess, I'm trying to see on the cut sheet what the shielding options are. I mean, if we were to, I'd like to ask the applicant, is there an option to shield the fixture so that it restricts spillage to the, assuming north is up and on these diagrams, to the east side or to the north and west side, excuse me, the north and west side? Are those shielding options available?
I believe so. I believe we can just install some guards. Yeah. And I'd be happy to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And that was assuming north and west, or the way the page is oriented, so.
I'm with you there. I'm with you. Yeah, I think it is correct just based on my quick back and forth between this and the mapping that was available. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. My question had been about the temperature, but I think John was spot on with catching that for me. So that's great. Yeah, your willingness to obviously, evaluate and get some shielding in play here, I think would probably address most of what's going on here. Yeah, I'd be interested in a motion if anybody had one at this juncture. Unless anybody had something they wanted to add.
Well, I guess I'll have a streak.
Yeah, why not? Go for it.
I'm making a motion to approve it with the caveat of shields be installed on the north and west side. Shields be installed on the fixtures on the north and west sides to restrict glare and spillage to the adjacent residential areas.
That's a motion. Do I hear a second?
And those shields should be installed in, I don't know how long it takes to get them, 90 days. And they're subject to, an inspection by staff. So, sorry.
That's all right. No, we now have a full motion there. So I've got a motion. Do I hear a second from anybody?
I will second that motion.
All right. Any additional discussion from the board? All right. Hearing none, I'll take the vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right. That's unanimous. Thank you very much and best of luck. And yeah, that's it for me on this one. So I believe that brings us to the end of this evening's festivities. Unless I missed something in my agenda, but I don't believe so.
Nope, that's pretty much it. We were easy on you all this month.
I sincerely appreciate that, Cam. You're a swell guy.
Well, it's only because it was you, Mike B.
Is that what it was?
If the real Mike
Real Mike
was
The real
here,
Mike.
we would have had a really long agenda for him, but we like you best.
Cam
Don't
would
tell him
have
I
put me
said that. If Michael was here, we'd just make him do a really long agenda.
all the way through to item P at least,
Yeah.
right? Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate it. I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second it.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Have a great night, everybody. And thank you to staff for all of your assistance as always.
Yes.
Good
thank you.
evening, all.